Рабочий день заходил вчера, ночью ехать лень, пробыл до утра, но пришла пора, и собрался в путь. Ну и ладно, будь. 300 тысяч часов за спиною, 300 тысяч планет надо мною. Не устал ли создатель их в небе кружить?
Everything started with Marcel's dream to drive a car to the end of the world and back. 1 year, 2 Subaru Foresters and 3 friends later, the dream comes true. On the map, everything looks great. We have chosen the exact checkpoints through which we will have to pass in order to drive the longest ever heart-shaped route achieved by car. 25,000 kilometers in 60 days through 9 countries: Romania, Ukraine, Russia, Mongolia, again Russia, Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, Iran, Turkey and Bulgaria. There are some minor problems that arise before leaving. We haven't yet got our visas for Iran and there's nothing confirmed about Turkmenistan.
Ai curaj să conduci
Are de la regele
25.000 de kilometri fără permis?
Da, n-am permis în România, nu în alte țări.
Și în alte țări cum o să faci?
Fără, cu copie.
We are leaving Arad at the beginning of August. Our friends, journalists and local authorities came in front of the town hall to bid us farewell. Those 8 wheels and 2 extra spare wheels were taking us to the embassy of Iran in Bucharest. To chase away our fear of not getting the desired visas, we choose to cross the Carpathians between Transylvania and Muntenia, where the highest mountain road in the country lies, Transalpina.
El merge destul de tare. Auzi că a zis
Mai spre seară, spune la Marcel, mai spre seară.
Vine ceva, putem depăși.
Nu vine, hai numai, mișcă.
Bă, dar cât e limita de viteză aici?
Nu contează, cât putem.
We lose 24 hours in the capital and we get only 3 visas for Iran. Marcel will have to wait a few days longer to get his visa processed. Thus we decide to hit the road and solve this problem later, in Russia or Kazakhstan. We are driving north to Suceava at the border of Ukraine. Without major problems we cross the border of Ukraine in the evening. The word bribe is frequently used here, but we didn't have any problems. We intend to cross the whole country at night, which is possible because even if roads are bad, they avoid the villages. The first car problem appears. A burned-out light proves us that it is good to have spares for your car and that after 10 p.m. it is absolutely impossible to find light bulbs in Ukraine's poorly stocked gas stations. So we decide to drive only with the high beams on of the car behind. At dawn we cross Kiev, which appears on our heart-shaped itinerary. We managed to enter Russia. The formalities at the border with Russia last for about 2 or 3 hours. It is essential to speak and write a little in Russian and to offer a small gift so that everything runs smoothly, so that the 10 litres of brandy and wine remain in the trunk of your car. We have been driving for almost 30 hours. Russia seems to be terribly desolate. That's because the villages and the cities hide behind areas of forest. We stop at a restaurant to have our first Russian meal.
Ce conține chestia aia?
Habar n-am, ceva cremă de călcâie.
De sfeclă?
Da, ceva sfeclă cu varză și ceva cărniță. E bună, hai.
Tot de oaie.
O să vezi ce râd astea
Și
de
cum
noi.
se mănâncă asta?
Să vezi ce râd astea de noi.
Cum se mănâncă?
Dacă îl gustam, dacă nu
O să nu se mănâncă.
Da.
Și-am nu se mănâncă.
Sărină măcinată.
Bă, nu e rău.
Cu sare.
Nu e rău, să știi că e chiar foarte bun.
We are heading north and outside is getting colder. We start to feel exhausted. We enter Moscow in the evening. One day and one night has passed since we started on the road, so we decided to postpone our visit to the capital of the Soviet Empire. We postpone it for the next day. The Moscow Metro, with its 188 stations and by the average number of travelers per day, is considered to have the world's third largest subway, after Tokyo and Seoul. In order to make the most of Moscow in a short amount of time, we recommend to you the famous tourist buses. By all means, with a conversation guide for the Russian language.
Третий выход в город. Вас на Поклонную гору. На Поклонной горе вы заезжаете на автобусе, проезжаете 135 гектаров музейных экспозиций. Это самая большая обзорная площадка в Европе.
С левой стороны место, где была гостиница «Россия», вот огороженная щитами серого цвета площадка слева. Справа Большой Москворецкий мост. Ну а впереди, куда мы едем за светофором, Москворецкая набережная, за ней главная водная артерия столицы, река Москва.
Surprisingly, the guide doesn't speak English and his strong Russian accent is difficult to understand even for those people who are advanced in Slavic languages. However, we asked ourselves why the city tour of the most popular tourist attractions avoid important landmarks but includes additional insignificant places such as Mosfilm's studio lot or the park that lies next to the open-air museum which is dedicated to World War II. Nevertheless, Moscow is so interesting and rich in diversity that every time you lay your eyes upon something you have something new to see. Next we arrive at a Red Square. We are really angry. Although Vladimir Putin promised that he would give us coffee at the Irish pub on the corner, he had more important stuff to do, so he dropped our meeting. We comfort ourselves by learning that Moscow is the world's sixth largest city, having a population of 12 million inhabitants, and is the world's most northerly metropolis. According to Forbes magazine, Moscow has the largest billionaire community in the world. This is why Marcel insisted on visiting this place. The metropolis was established in 1847 and is known as the Third Rome, White Stone or First Throne. But enough relaxation. We focus on the expedition and are going to a grand food market to get some supplies. It will be interesting to see how we handle our ration.
Знаете, у нас Грузия, это, да, работаем, да, работаем, делаем большая, как называется место? Это большая. Чашка, да,
But there's a surprise waiting for us at the dairy department.
De la România sunteți? Domnilor, da? O, pare bine, pare bine.
Hai că am venit
Da,
ce cu vreți
da,
asta?
da, cu ce...
Expediție.
Expediție?
Mongolia.
Ah, unde?
Mongolia.
Da? Așa are Mongolia pe mine.
Vedem noi atunci.
Da?
As soon as we refueled our cars, we leave Moscow and head east. Thousands of kilometers awaits us. The first important landmark, the Ural Mountains. Until then, we are amazed by the quality of the roads and by the modernity of the famous Trans-Siberian Highway. Marcel, who is overflowing with energy, makes us drive really fast, being less bothered by the terrible traffic jams. We try to bring the rhythm to the limits of safety.
În rest, tot ok?
Ne învățăm cum bulinăm.
Cu tirurile un pic mai asta, cu...
Era să ne rupă în două un camion, că ne-am băgat în coloană după voi. Ce-ar fi să nu mai facem cascadării și să rămânem șoferi?
Dar ce-ar fi să facem?
Și că asta este Transiberianul, drum ca în palmă, autostradă, nesperat. Deci că este Germania, avem Stau. Ce zâmbești așa, mă?
Așa faci tu noaptea.
Eu?
Liquid petroleum gas fuel stations are really hard to find, so we have to be constantly careful in order to drive economically, but the fact is that the gas costs half of what Romanians have to fork out on it. We can tell the same thing about food. You can find food, but it is really weird, at least when you randomly order food from the menu written in Russian.
Cum se cheamă felul 1 sau felul 2?
Și felul 1 și felul 2.
Felul 2 se cheamă felul 2 și felul 1 se cheamă felul 1.
Felul întâi zamă.
Ce chestia asta?
Foarte ciudată.
Poți să primi deci castraveți acri.
Lămâie, măsline, porc tăiat. Și felul 2. Eu am cerut ceva chestii din porc prăjite cu tot felul de legume.
We are on the road to Kirov, the fourth landmark on our heart-shaped route. The evening comes with a major car problem. Because of our technical improvisation, in which we tried to increase the car's road clearance, the drive shafts were operating at a wrong angle and one drive shaft situated on the back of the green car has failed. Silver becomes the hero of the day, changing the whole drive mechanism at night in less than 2 hours on the edge of the road. We don't get any sleep and Dawn finds us searching for a shortcut from Kirov to Perm.
И вам, Малмыж, хотим на этом дороге до...
Не надо было Малмыж-то заезжать.
Ага, нехорошо. Возвращаемся.
Да, да. Вот вам надо, вот сейчас вот этот, там КПП есть?
Да.
Это, ну, милиция стояла, не стояла там?
Нет,
Не стояла?
не было милиции.
Вот. Вам надо за город выехать,
Да.
To get lost and then have to cross a river by ferry can actually be a pleasant experience. The experience might have been even more pleasant if our fishermen Jenny and Silver had been successful with the fishing rods. We camp in the evening somewhere beyond Perm in a forest situated next to Dobrianka.
Ciocolată Alionca. Cea mai bună ciocolată. Aș aduce cu mine în România, dar în Iran, că 50 de grade ziua și am mâncat pe poză Nutella. Vrea cineva ciocolată? Nu? Mersi. Alionca.
In the morning everyone went off the deep end. Marcel is telling us to get rid of the wine, the pedals and the tropholins because the car is too heavy, and I'm struggling to sew my expedition's trousers that are terribly broken.
Care a fost recordul tău de zile în care nu te-ai spălat?
Cred că adineaori l-am depășit. Sunt 3 zile și 2 nopți.
Auzi, dar știi?
Mirose bine în mașină.
Am citit într-o carte de cosmetică că dacă asculti Depeche Mode, nu mai contează că nu ești bărberit, știi?
Se confirmă. E adevărat.
Вы знаете, это дорог до Серов. Можем?
Серов нет?
Да, нет?
Нету.
Почему?
Зачем снимаешь? Нету, нет, уже вы не первый спрашиваете.
Нет?
Разворачивайтесь обратно.
For art's sake, we had in mind to cross the Urals on forest roads that were barely roads at all, even though there is an asphalted road some 100 kilometers south. Do we have off-road cars? So we search for adventure. To travel from Europe to Asia by land, torturing the cars just like in real explorers? Absolutely. The mountains are not high and they don't offer spectacular views, just a few distinct plants and animals. We ask repeatedly for directions and we are always told that our cars are too low to pass the mud and the river that awaits for us in Jaiva. Somewhere at the end of the road, we meet Gaspadin Alexander, a forester forgotten by the people in the middle of the woods. He told us that he was a constant friend of the Romanians, of Romania, and especially of genus plum brandy.
Я здесь 6 месяцев в лесу, я еще в поселок не выезжал. 6 месяцев в лесу.
6 места.
O băut un
6, да, с февраля
jumate de
месяца.
sticlă de jumate dintr-o gură.
6 luni
Aici.
stă...
Aici.
6 luni stă în pădure pe an.
Dar ce facem în pădure?
Что работаете в лесу?
Лес валим.
А, и пădurar.
Заготовка леса, это частник.
Animale sunt aici?
Какие живет в лесу? Что, медведь, волк?
Медведь, лось,
Unde? Nu am văzut
заяц.
nicio urmă. Nu am luat-o.
Медведь здесь живет, он
Какой
медвежонком
трескучий.
маленьким живет здесь, я видел.
Acolo trăiesc urși, iepure, vulc,
Волк есть,
este și
Treaba lui
lupul.
bună țuica.
да зимой.
A, iarna sunt.
Зимой. А летом его не трогает. Медведь тоже, он из соседа, он не
Dar fii
трогает.
atent aici. După
Если
ce
его стреляли,
Iată.
может он кинуться.
pac,
Если стреляет его, он может кинуться.
până nu se îmbeată, că ăsta când îl prinde, făi procesul scurt, pune de la drumul nostru ăsta care merge în drumul ăsta acum, nu?
Da.
Ăsta merge, unde e satul?
Nu e satul, a zis, nu, is отсюда.
Nu-i priiește nici țigara aia, că e tare.
До Коль...
До Косово?
До Косово. До Косово 8 километров.
Это вот с этой дороги 8 километров.
Да.
Там,
Направо.
у меня будете, я покажу
Направо.
там, будете проезжать.
Mounted on genus car lift, the forester is coming with us some 100 meters. He's leaving us here together with a muddy road which is terribly clogged. We are exploring the continuation on foot to see what's left to do.
Treci. Bun.
Trec că vine în groapă aici și o
Dacă
trec.
ai ajuns aici, uite, eu trag o linie, eu îți dau mașina mea cadou. Uite aici dacă ai ajuns. Dacă ai ajuns la linia asta, îți dau mașina mea cadou.
Dă-mi cu prostiile ca...
Nu, ce prostii! Și dacă nu, mi-o dai tu pe a ta.
S-a filmat totul, băieți!
Rămâi suspendat.
Tu știi ce distanță ai tu între roți? Aici trebuie să fie distanță de sub 2 metri între roți să te poți băga cu orice jeep, mă.
The way back is difficult, especially after the unexpected torrential rain. Not even the rainbow can save us from muddy maneuvers.
Stai, nu, să nu pleci acum și ăsta.
We try another road that is also a dead end, but we found some empty huts made for the forest workers and the watchman lets us sleep there in exchange of our traditional plum brandy.
Одиннадцать. 11 очень светлое небо, я светлое.
Even though it's really late, it is still light. We are at high latitudes and if we had come 2 months ago, we would have experienced the white nights.
Ce faci?
Uite, mă joc un pic cu la mașini. Schimb telescopele.
Numai
Telescopele.
te uiți un pic și la noastră după aia, dacă tot ce face.
Da, mă pot uita așa acum.
Доброе утро! Da, tu de ce ți-ai dat numărul jos de pe mașină din față?
Din cauza telescopelor.
Acum și dacă îl doare burta atât de tare.
Da.
Dacă îl doare spatele.
Groapă, bum!
Da, в юге Туркменистане.
In the morning we make friends with the new forestry workers and we exchange books and ideas like from ex-communists to ex-communists. We don't linger too long because the remoteness calls us. We go back to the asphalted road and cross the Urals on a better road as we turn south. In the evening we cross the imaginary border between Europe and Asia. We found a motel and we finally sleep in a bed. In the morning we drive eastwards, disregarding the speed limits.
Am avut 137 la oră, ne-a oprit radarul și până la mașină am scos $20, am pus, nici nu i-am, când ne-am pus actele, am adus în partea alaltă la mașină, când ne-am pus actele, am pus și dolarii, am întins polițistul mâna, drasvidania, tradițion.
$20.
$20.
Cacă, frate! Hai, mă, nu pot să cred! $20.
Asta este.
Deja ne vedeam dezbrăcați spre o pușcărie, știi? Pozați din față, din profil, știi? Era restricție de 70,
trebuie să mergem.
Știi?
Da, era restricție de 70, da.
Și 137 ai avut.
137.
Our road descends slightly to the south towards Ekaterinburg and then towards Chelyabinsk, stopping points in our heart-shaped itinerary. Stocked with Russian gas tanks, we become experts in cooking on the roadside. Siberian master chefs. We are actually eating the kilometers to the east. We won't sleep until we will arrive in Tomsk. The momentum imposed by Marcel had repercussions, paradoxically again on Genu, the always unlucky one.
100 le-a trebuit. Ce? 100 le-am dat. Da, dar musai. Uite, de când stăm,
O linie continuă sau ce?
linie continuă și viteză și tot ce vrei tu a fost. Da, bine, ce să fac? Am înțeles, nu mai depășesc. Ceau!
At Marcel's insistence and against Janu's protests, we again drive all through the night. We decide to spend tomorrow evening in Tomsk, and we are going to meet our friends from the off-road club. Despite the distance, Yulia helped us a lot in planning the Siberian part of our expedition. She will continue to help us, as will be seen. In the meantime, in a rush we visit Tomsk, a city that lies on the river Oby. However, the locals tell us that we are not in the heart of Siberia, but in center of Russia, and we are eating a traditional food made from chicken entrails, opening maps and receiving advice from Yulia.
They say there are very, very dangerous roads where you have a hole one side of the... We call it polka.
And we were just looking for these, so that you see, but it's very,
There is
From Oby to Yenisei, this can be our motto for the coming days. It is only 1800 kilometers from Tomsk to Lake Baikal. Child's play. We nail it. Siberia seems so different to what we expected. A huge forest split by the cut of an incredibly straight asphalted road, the Trans-Siberian Railway. To the north, the Siberian taiga has the largest swamp in the world, between Oby and Yenisei. Villages are rare, but those on the road are quite modern. The small village shops have everything we need, and we stock up on the run. We sleep outside, and even if the legendary mosquitoes are not quite as huge as birds, they cause us great problems. There is a 5-hour shift from Romania. In the recent days we have been passing through a time zone every day. Our bodies have a hard time adapting to the hours imposed for sleep. Leaving Romania at the end of summer while here in the north it is hardly spring is a really weird fact. Cherries, strawberries, enjoy your meal. Here and there we have sections without asphalt, but the road is good. Finally, after almost 9,000 kilometers we arrive at Baikal. Baikal means a lot of water in the language of the Kurikan population, who lived here 3,000 years ago. It's the deepest lake on Earth, almost 700 meters deep. The Great Lake of southern Siberia, with a surface area slightly greater than that of Belgium, holds 10% of world's water supply. It's one of the living museums where about 800 animal species live and 245 endemic plants. The Baikal Lake owes its riches, nevertheless 336 rivers flow into it.
Lacul Baikal este o mică mare sau o mare mică dacă vreți voi. Apa nu are mai mult de 10 grade. Poate nu are nici mai mult de 5. Da? Dacă am promis...
We spent the night on the lakeside, and the next day, on a windy day, Silver is back on duty replacing the old car springs with ones both in Tomsk. Tonight we will finally arrive at the border of Mongolia, and there our cars will have to be real off-road vehicles. We go in through Ulan-Ude in the evening and arrive at the border at night. After about 4 hours of formalities that were more or less weird and were in Russian, we are in Mongolia. It's incredible how during the third millennium you are able to find a country where time has stood still, where you can expect Genghis Khan's horsemen or even the long-departed dinosaurs to show up at any moment.
Ați văzut semnul ăla, atenție Cămile!
Hurrying southwards on one of the few asphalted roads in the country, a road that runs from the border to Ulaanbaatar. Strange things happen at every step. Green wilderness everywhere, dotted with small white yurts, lost in timeless immensity. Yes, it is exactly like it is on the Discovery Channel.
Vedem cât de casă, poate plătim tot în dolari, dar rămânem cu banii dacă facem așa. Vedem la fața locului.
Nu, că aici nu merge dolari și euro, trebuie să tăgrăc, peste tot sunt taxele în tăgrăc și la bun, dacă e pensiune ținută de străini, da, dar altfel...
Excluding the capital city, in a territory that is 7 times larger than Romania, there live 2 million people who between them have 17 million animals. Situated at an altitude between 10 and 4,000 meters, it is the least populated and least polluted country on Earth. Paradoxically, it is one of the most beautiful.
În caz că nu v-ați prins, suntem în Ulaanbaatar și era tocmai să-l pocnim pe un fer cu volanul pe dreapta. Nu era, hai, fă și tu un pic de agitație aici, că nu-i palpitant firul.
Dacă îi zici că el vrea să lovească puțin.
Nu mai știu.
Codul poștal?
Nu știu.
There's nothing to impress about Ulaanbaatar, except perhaps the chaotic traffic and the mostly right-hand drive cars imported from Japan. Luckily, the capital reveals the only infusion of modernity in the country, and that was achieved after the fall of communism in 1990.
Traseul cam așa îl facem, da? Ne interesează. Astea sunt orașele mari. Asta e Mandalgovul la 250, asta e de la Nzegadul la 500.
Once we've left the capital, the asphalt also disappears. We tried to prepare ourselves mentally for the journey, but it was still incredible that we had to travel 3,000 kilometers effectively through fields on a path that was based on guesswork and a compass and a map and without any signposts. GPS, sat-nav does not exist in Mongolia, only amateur maps with photographs that no one is sure are correct. The important roads are in fact a collection of numerous parallel paths that run hundreds of meters apart, and it may be that they all end up at the same destination. GPS and four-wheel drive vehicles are indispensable in traveling through this amazing country. But nothing else matters when you have the opportunity to see in this wilderness far away from civilization so many interesting animals that are unconcerned by the presence of humans. Horses, vultures, camels, yaks and many others.
Le dezumfli să nu mai simțim gropile?
Sper să nu le mai simțim.
Surprisingly, from place to place there are short sections of asphalt road which are more a pain in the ass than a help because they end so abruptly that your bones are shaken and rattled.
Da, să schimba telescopul.
Să schimba telescopul.
No, gata cu mâna asta.
Ții volanul drept!
Încet, mă!
The first big city on our journey, where in this situation big means 10,000 inhabitants, is Mandalgobi. Here we meet a German man with a Mongolian woman who are United Nations representatives. They are helping with the implementation of a cured meats factory. They become our guides when we go shopping and tasting traditional food, and they also introduce us to the famous airag, mare's milk.
Der zeigt euch, wo dieser Laden ist, okay?
Ja. No? Danke schön.
Nu pot să-l beau.
De să-l bei. Ați îngeșurlit.
Ja, ja.
Sărat.
Cel mai sănătos aliment din lume, laptele de iapă.
Bea, filmează că nu atât.
Und er hat gesagt, ihr dürft erst gehen, wenn du den Krug ausgetrunken hast.
Immer ist das so sauer? Immer ist es so sauer?
Ja, sauer.
Da, wir brauchen nichts zu essen. Eigentlich schmeckt es nicht so gut.
Das ist Trockenmisch.
After Mandalgovi, we take the road south, heading deep into the first buttresses of the Gobi Desert. Paradoxically, only 5% of the Gobi Desert is covered in sand dunes, and the rest is just a beautiful wilderness, unspoiled and agonizing for cars.
Înghețat în deșert?
Da.
Shortly there came a time when we strayed from our path. The hard terrain does not retain any marks, and we spent time wandering under the hot burning sun somewhere in the desert looking for a road.
Nu e bine, nu e niciun drum pe aici.
Cum ieșim din albia asta?
Nu știu cum ieșim, nu știu cum am intrat.
Dacă văzut Marcel un drum. Uite acolo niște urme, fii atent, o găsim Marcel.
The road, turns out to be the dry bed of a stream. We know the direction is correct, but that is about it. Our GPS is only able to estimate our position with a tolerance of 20 kilometers.
Sper să fie bine.
We take the advantage of the small amount of firewood around us and pack some for the next few days. In Gobi, the trees are sparse, and the roads are even more sparse.
Nu văd niciun drum. Sau înainte de a începe ăla din față, canionul ăla acolo în partea dreaptă, trebuia să o luăm.
Roata să fie acolo.
It's no joke. It's an idyllic landscape, but the cars are put under severe strain in our attempts to make progress through mud, over rocks, brambles and sand dunes.
Practic, într-un fel, nu a fost rău că am intrat pe valea aia, că a fost foarte spectaculos, am luat și lemne. Silver!
Da.
Unde sunteți?
În spatele vostru.
Nu-i bine, zdune de nisip aici, hai mai către râu!
Eventually, Janu sees through his binoculars a yurt far away on a hill. We drive there and the Mongolian manages to give us an idea where we are. Luckily, the mountains nearby have the name on the map the same as in the local language. We get ready for our first camp in the desert. The evening program includes filling the dampers and cooking on the gas stove. As for washing, we manage with little mineral and lots of deodorant.
Vechea poveste cu telescoapele. Acum avem un telescop față.
Problemă.
Domnul Genu, trebuie să-i cumpărăm ochelari de ziua lui. A dat în ceva și nu știe în ce.
Nici măcar n-am văzut.
Nici măcar nu a văzut.
A rămas așa strâmb?
Da, uite ce strâmb.
Și care e ideea?
Bine, ciocanul!
O ovalizat.
Și care e ideea acum?
O ovalizat găurile și o mică improvizație.
O șmecherie de mecanic.
Se va mânca virgulă cauciucul.
Un pic.
O să vedem după, Adi.
Cu muștar. To help reduce the risk of getting lost, moments enjoyed by myself and Marcel but criticized by Geno and Silver, I decide to convert the maps that I have from latitude and longitudes to minutes and seconds. I do not have a ruler, but my ID card becomes very useful. With this new method, a hard-working student like me should be able to determine our position within a range of about 5 kilometers.
44 de grade și 22 de minute. Am mai înaintat 5 km. Ești bine, ești către vest. Ai coborât un pic către sud, dar în principiu acolo unde se vede clădirea aia departe ar putea fi Bayan Hoșu.
Nu ai niciun reper. Se vede. Nu se vede nimic. Te duci ore întregi și nu vezi nimic. O singură mașină am întâlnit de 2 zile care venea din contradirecție, probabil că mergea de la o iută la cealaltă.
În sfârșit am ieșit la oraș, la punctulețul de pe hartă.
We have another story about the carburetor in Mongolia. Petrol pumps are rare, you drive about 200 kilometers and just hope that you will find something open. The petrol is poor quality. In many places it has an octane number of just 80. The cars do not complain, they are simply powerless.
Zi încotro să iau.
Către drum trășești. Poți să încerci pe urmele astea, zice el.
Și unde mă scot astea?
Ies în diagonală la drum.
Uite, acolo e o mașină.
At Bayanzag, the Red Cliff, we spoil ourselves with a mini excursion riding camels. Bactrian camels differ from dromedaries in having two humps between which we sit quite comfortably. The camels chew contentedly, but they shake dreadfully and the ride is not a pleasant experience. We spend the following night in a yurt. It is true that it is more touristy, but we do get an experience of the nomad shelter, the mobile house that is cool in the summer and warm in the winter. We admire the Buddhist ornaments displayed in the yurt and the shoes that turn up at the toe. Mongolian religious belief is that the earth is sacred and it is forbidden to scratch the surface with shoes or to use any agricultural implements. It makes sense that Mongolians do not have agriculture. People mostly eat meat. Vegetables are imported from Russia and bread is rarely found. We are now in the heart of the Gobi Desert. Paradoxically, we meet a lorry full of vegetables and animals. What a desert! Everywhere we go, we leave presents for the children, sweets and toys. We cast our eyes on Bayanzag, the red rock around which dinosaur fossils, bones and eggs have been found. We are able to see exhibits and amazingly to touch them at a nearby museum. The time has come to visit Yolin Am, the Vultures Canyon, which is an unimaginable oasis along a river in the middle of the desert. Situated at the center of a nature reserve in Guarvan Saihan, the canyon has another specific feature. Its depths are home to ice and snow for 9 months of the year. We spend a further day in the Gobi Desert, not far from the border with China. We are very keen to see the famous sand dunes of Congo in Els.
Ce să ia? Cai.
Merge prea încet, ca de obicei.
The hours and days pass quickly. Marcel insists on driving on, to Janus' despair. Silver is always busy mending the cars, but I spend the time writing and filming. The sand dunes are indeed spectacular. They are so spectacular that Marcel cannot resist the temptation to break a car on the dunes.
Ce e aia?
Gobi is without a doubt a unique desert, the largest in Asia and the 5th largest in the world. It stretches across Mongolia and China. From north to south it measures 800 kilometers and from east to west 1600. In the stone and sand wilderness, the temperature in the summer reaches 50 degrees Celsius and in the winter it drops to -40. In an attempt to please Geno and Silver, who blamed the deplorable state of our cars on the so-called roads through the desert, we decide to take a direct route northwards in order to reach the mountains and water in central Mongolia. We have to guess the route, relying on a few directions from locals and from guides who are visiting with tourists.
Am verificat la nenea ala coordonatele, că-s două bocnuri, știi? La distanță de vreo 150-200 de kilometri ce ne pun. Și nenea ala care repara pe sub mașină a scos Garmin-ul și mi-a arătat coordonatele la bocdul nostru. Îți dai seama dacă avem GPS-ul pe bocdul ăla, ne merge mai urea.
Cu viteza ca ale mele, cred că merge mai repede pe jos.
Again we pass through spectacular routes. The practical Mongolian people have transformed every canyon into a road.
Mai în față văd tot așa multe drumuri.
Nu mă zic, poate ocolesc ei, știi, că îi vedem acum până stăm de țări.
Intri pe ăsta.
Da. Uite ce pun.
1100 de aici.
E de la Ulaanbaatar și nu pus. Uite că noi facem un dus.
A major problem. The alternator in one of the cars gives up.
2 ore bateria de la una la alta. Până dacă de acolo.
Că nu încarcă?
Dacă e să apezi de cum să că nu încarcă.
Ia, Ghișenc, cadou, suvenir.
Delgur? Delgur? Nu?
Niet.
Nu găsim. Nu găsim.
Crossing waters and making children happy have become ordinary things for us.
Este cel mai important drum din Mongolia, așa-i?
Da.
Clar, vine și un autocar, vezi?
In the town of Bayanhongor, the largest in central Mongolia, we do our best to mend the cars, unfortunately with no success. We cannot get spare parts and only one soldering gun is available in the whole town, and in order to use it you join a kiwi in front of the stall like you would at home for a hot pie. Silver is rather desperate and begins to ask himself if he would be able to repair the cars to last until we leave Mongolia and cross into Russia through the east of the country. We're about 1,000 kilometers from the border. A piece of cake.
Da, cum îți place Mongolia?
E super. E peste așteptările mele.
Adică?
Închide, te rog eu, închide. Închide aia, mă lasă-mă în pace. Să n-arăți la nimeni așa ceva.
Mai vii, nu?
Dar abia aștept să mai vin. Nu pot să plec de aici.
The problem with the car is serious. Without the alternator, we drive for 30 minutes until the battery is dead and then change the batteries between the cars and so on. I call Yulia in Tomsk to ask for help.
We are in central Mongolia, 600 kilometers from Ulaanbaatar, and in all country they don't have this spare part. We have asked all over and you can't fix it.
Yulia will locate an alternator and send it to the first town in Russia after we cross the border. To send it to Mongolia would take 2 weeks.
Okay. So, thanks very much. I write to the SMS. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
We decide to cross the mountains at an altitude of 3,000 meters to be able to join the road that crosses Mongolia from east to west. We have information that it is a better road. It is said that the rivers there have even more fish. But before we get to Tsetserleg, the mountains, and especially the rivers that we have to cross endless times, give us an adrenaline rush and spectacular views. It's evident that we are on one of the most important roads in the country, and the locals are unfazed by the number of times that you have to cross the river. In a short time, Genu is less stressed with the river that has become our friend, along with the horses and the yaks that have replaced the camels. Marcel is in his element, and the fact that several times we have lost our number plates in the river rapids only adds to the charm of the landscape. The only unpleasant thing is that the battery in the green car has to be replaced every 30 minutes with a change battery from the red car.
Ați găsit numărul? Marcel!
Vultures, rodents, and the semi-wild myriad of wild animals make this country unique. It's no wonder that the Mongolians do not require cereals. Because of the number of animals they have, they could kill a sheep for every dinner. They do not use the milk from sheep. The sought after milk is mare's milk. Chickens are rare and pigs don't exist. We were told that the Buddhist Mongolians do eat pork meat, but rarely. The pork meat is imported from Poland. The yaks are quite spectacular. They are more of a hybrid species crossed between yaks and cows. The days pass by and we are spoiled by the same sublime landscapes of a horizon untouched by civilizations, towns and roads. We sleep by rivers at high altitude. Our diet consists mainly of cold game meats prepared by the meticulous Genu, vacuum-packed before our departure, a huge provision of which we have plenty left. Eggs for omelets, chef's special by Marcel. A meal prepared almost raw rather than well cooked, in opinion of Silver and myself, is unusual. We are all longing for a change in the menu, so much that we are choosing a route which takes us to the rivers full of fish. Silver and Genu promise us delicious fried fish, and our mouths are already salivating.
Un wobbler de la fratele meu Călin. Sper să am și rezultat cu el.
The boys have with them a whole arsenal. But what is missing? Oh yeah, the bait. Quickly, some grasshoppers! But misfortune! It looks like Mongolian fish are not keen on Romanian tourists, so we make do with some conifer seeds from the locals.
Se mănâncă și în Rusia și în Mongolia chestiile astea.
We hit the road again. The green car is getting worse, the battery does not have enough time to charge. We travel large parts of the journey by towing it with the red car. On the 26th day of our expedition, we make a note of our mileage. 12,000 kilometers covered. The endless nature becomes ordinary, as well as the dust roads, the rare sight of a white yurt and, from place to place, Buddhist monuments at which we stop and walk around them 3 times, just as locals do. We spend the evenings around the fire built with passion by Genu, with the hope of chasing away the hunger and the cold. It's cold at night at those high altitudes, and sometimes the thermometer shows 0 degrees Celsius. People live here in very modest conditions, without too much interaction between each other or the need to travel to the towns too often. Their yurts contain everything they need, and the water is taken from the rivers. In Mongolia, a sense of ownership is non-existent. If you need a hammer, you just go to your neighbor's yurt and help yourself. Even if no one is at home, it's understood that you will return it sometime. The cars are giving us lots of grief, but Silver performs miracles and managed to get us out safely from the country with no roads. Mongolia is a paradise for tourists. A real challenge would be to cross it on bikes like the French people we met on the way. At the exact moment when the guys in the green car went ahead to explore, Marcel managed to cut 2 tires on some rocks. Could it be the 20th or the 30th flat tire?
Foarte rău, nu?
Da.
Nu se mai poate face.
We only have 2 spare tires. Luckily that is enough at this moment.
Două roți. Bană. Tăiate.
Amândouă.
Una am schimbat, da. Cu ce ai avut 2 roți? Una am schimbat și una m-am oprit. Veniți.
Uite aici, ai prins ceva piatră.
Aia tăiată ca și cu cuțitul, instantaneu s-o goli de aer.
100 points question. How big are vipers in Mongolia? Just ask Jen.
Se poate merge așa?
Da. Până de seară. Nu putem mere. O să-l facem și pe ăsta.
Facem acum?
Da?
Acum aici?
Da, ce să facem? Îi strâng telescopul și atinge roata în telescop.
Ok. Bun, scoate sculele. Arcul original nord ținut. Telescopul Caiaba de cea mai bună calitate s-a îndoit.
Unde ești pe școala la Gheoro? Că acum nu te spăra.
Nu mă supăr.
Deci mi un 19.
De cât e ăla?
20! Era să tot, am scăpat, ce dracu!
Operațiunea Pila. Drept îi bate, dă numai.
Cât îți mai ajunge benzina?
150.
150? Peste 25 de kilometri avem satul Baru în Turun. Dacă nu găsim acolo benzină, e rău.
Te mergem pe tine.
Poate avem noroc și e benzină.
Nu, noroc. E normal să fie benzină.
Am ajuns eu la nisip și în dreapta la 10 km niște dune de nisip, le zicem la ăștia.
Zile.
Eu n-am curaj. O să zică, ce? Am făcut 2000 de kilometri prin toată Mongolia ca să ajungem tot la dune de nisip care le putem vedea, care le-am pus acolo. Da, te putem vedea aici. Am știut eu că venim în așa nord, nu?
The time has come to note some weird things about this country. In villages we have not seen any football pitches, only basketball hoops hung on poles. Nowhere have we come across true forests, only clusters of conifers. The villages are a gathering of yurts and small wooden or breeze block houses with tines roof painted in bright red, blue or green. In every village and town there is at least one park, where chaotically there are scattered statues, usually of animals and Genghis Khan. The larger villages have a food shop, Hunski Delgur, and a bar, Saini Gazar, used in specific conditions. We are in the northwest part of the country. We bypass to the south the large salt lake Ufsnur, the important botanical and fauna reserve. We cross the town of Ulangom. We still have ahead the picturesque Hop, the high mountains we have to cross via the Yulandava Pass. It's almost right that we feel sorry leaving Mongolia because we encountered the most beautiful landscape to date. The Ureg Nur is a blue fantasy at the foot of snowy peaks which are in Russian territory. How cold is the water? It doesn't matter. After 5 days we can finally have a decent wash.
Șeful, avem la ruble aici de îmi vine rău. Stai că le număr acum, fii atent. Ia uite ce bine ți-a stat pe bancnota de 1000 de ruble, a? Oprește că iar am luat o piatră silver.
Cel mai bun drum.
E mai rău ca oricare, așa-i?
Da.
De ieșire din Mongolia.
Așa, hai că direcția e bună, în sfârșit vom trece râul. Cine știe ce monstru de apă o fi. Opa! Că ajung la iurta lui Gheorghe. Hai să întrebăm. Să mai n-au. Ganganur?
We are close to the border, but the last river in Mongolia proves difficult to cross.
Dar râde de noi, bă, că o fi mare apa, bă. Dacă el aici trece, înseamnă că e mai mic aici, Marcele.
Nu, dar
acolo cine știe, prindeam un guler din ăsta și era de 4
Tu mai necredinciosul, asta e problema. No, dar n-ai văzut, că ți-o zis omul. Bă, ce-o zis omul?
Nu, uite, dar auzi, dar dacă ne legăm,
ce-o zis omul?
Că se întoarce în maxim o oră și ne trage el. O întreba dacă rezistă la motor acolo jos și...
Eu zic că nu ne poate trage el.
Cât de mare?
Acolo trece.
Trece peste botul ăla.
nu ne băgăm.
Nu, și n-ai piatră de destul prin amor.
Nu noi, dar dacă vine el și ne trage...
Dar de ce patinează roțile lui, nu se poate?
Bă, omule, pe dar noi suntem ca o barcă, păi nu mai trage el greutate, Marcele.
Bă, când intră apa în ea, nu ești
Păi
ca
dar
o
asta
barcă.
cât are? Păi dar cât crezi tu că durează până trece asta? Ai numărat la 3 și ești dincolo, mă. Doar nu crezi că omul mere așa, îi dă în gornă, ne scoate afară. Eu așa mă gândesc.
Nu trebuie. Dacă n-are cum, și acolo e moale și la el, patinează.
Păi măi, șufa, el e afară când noi
Eu știu
suntem
că el e
aici.
afară.
Păi
No,
atunci
și atunci-
facem altcumva, întinde șufa lungă.
Nu mai ce
Aia dâncă, mă.
E mare, se n-are rost să te urci.
Vai, dar aici e mare. Vai de mine. Ține-mă un pic să-mi bag piciorul. Ai, n-ajung la fund aici.
Foarte mare apa.
Acolo, mă.
Părerea mea e că omul știe ce vorbește, că au mai tras și alte mașini, că nu s-ar fi hazardat el să ne strice mașinile, știi?
Hai, frății!
Ok?
Așa e bun?
Poți opri motorul să nu fie cald.
Da, oprește motorul.
Deci nu ții dreapta în câiniții, ții dreapta, să nu te pingă încolo.
Hai să nu pinge și noi.
Asta vrea, să întinde foarte. Oh, că vrea! Hey! Ah, că s-a zis că mai
Всё хорошо, всё хорошо. Это нет проблем. Очень хорошо.
Not even Silver is able to believe that the cars continue to work immersed in water up to the windscreen, but Subaru Boxers are real mechanical gems. Could it be the luck of the explorer, or someone up there really loves us? The SUV cars have not been built for such extremes, but still carry on. We now have an ecstatic driver, a stressed off-road specialist, an astounded mechanic, and an excited cameraman. We are very lucky to meet a Mongolian with a 4x4 who offers to tow us and take us to the ford, otherwise we would have long been gone down the river Bohmoron.
Băiatul ăla din față cu jeepul rusesc are impresia că noi suntem bărci. De ce mergem pe râu? Dragi prieteni, pe hartă aici este trasată o autostradă, cel mai mare drum din nordul Mongoliei. E cu albastru, probabil reprezintă apa. Hai de capul meu! Gata, Titanic e numele nostru de acum. Numai avem să nu ne scufundăm. Bă, eu cred că ăștia vor să ne nece, mă. Uite, bă, că pe aici se circulă, mă, incredibil. Ăștia-s nebuni, mă, pe cuvântul meu, dacă nu. Mamă, fii atent ce apă e în mașină, mă.
Nu e aici.
Fai, s-a udat și laptop și tot, mă.
Da, dintre astea te gândești să nu le pui astea electronice.
Da, dar cine știu că ne duce atâta în apă. Oh, ce faini pe pietre.
Țin o lanternă sau ceva?
Hai,
Golești apa din mașină.
Ce faci acolo?
O intrat la apă în mașină, bă, extraordinar. În miez de noapte stau și scot apa de la priză de sub scaun. Bine ați venit în Mongolia.
Da, să fie așa, ieșirea, știi, cireașa de pe tot.
Finally, late at night, we get to the border with Russia.
Mâncare tradițională mongoleză. Biscuiți cu unt de iac.
Suntem în vama mongolă, nu e nimeni, e duminică dimineața și am aflat că azi nu se lucrează de la 9, ci de la 11.
Mare bucurie.
Tot ăsta a fost pe seară.
Ba da.
Să spui cum că am venit 80 de kilometri fără faruri, fără nimic. Pe cele mai mari serpentine și așa mai departe.
Și ai ajuns?
Oricum trece bine. Și nu-i nimeni.
We put all our things out to dry, including the laptop. Silver is changing the oil in the car. We take up an invitation to eat at a local house, dubious food and expensive. Tortellini with lamb? Maybe.
Mai bun castravete decât ăștia. Merge. Carne de oaie. Gomoț cu carne de oaie, nu?
Perfect e.
Cine?
Mâncarea. Nu mai avem altceva până mâine oricum.
Cum e ultima mâncare de oaie în Mongolia?
Nu știu.
Aici am vamă la mongolezi. O să ne prindă bine.
Hungrier from that delicious food, we fill ourselves with chips cooked on our gas stove. The next morning we cross into Russia. Asphalt, food, mountains, new battery for the car. The mountains of the Altai Republic forms the natural border with China and look very inviting, but without a special permit you cannot visit the area. The landscape subsides. We pick up the alternator sent by Yulia in Gorno-Altaisk, and after we spent another $800 on parts for the green car, we continue our journey towards Kazakhstan. We had to cross into Russia because the Mongolians do not have a border with Kazakhstan.
Șeful, un suc, o cafea, ceva?
Da, o cafeluță. O lapte, te rog.
We crossed the border at night into the huge Kazakhstan. We haven't exchanged any money, and at the petrol stations they do not accept dollars or rubles.
Stăm pe roșu de 70 de kilometri. Mai avem 15 până în oraș, ajungem?
In the town of Pavlodar we buy second-hand tires, we repair what we can and listen to Romanian gypsy music.
Tu e românește, mă!
Da, mă!
Am crezut că e varianta în Kazakhstan.
Nu, e românește. Mâncăm șașlâc și ascultăm manele.
Our initially preferred route was to cross the mountainous south of Kazakhstan and then into Turkmenistan towards Iran. However, we received a phone call to say that we were refused visas for Turkmenistan. That was because of political reasons and the policy that the dictatorial regime have towards tourists. Unlucky. We must find another way towards Iran. We will have to cross the dusty roads of Kazakhstan to cross the Caspian Sea by ferry to Azerbaijan, for which we do not yet have visas, and then into Iran. A huge detour and with a disappointing outcome of missing planned points of interest. Irritation with the politics, irritation with the police, good luck with bribery.
Cum a fost?
Păi a venit, mi-a spus cum mă cheamă, nu știu ce, am dat mâna cu ei acolo la mașină și după ce tot scria, m-a făcut semn. Da, m-a făcut semn așa, că 20, să-i dau ceva. Cum mă cheamă, stă de vorbă cu el, repede am fugit. Care avea formularul scris, numai nu era datele pe el, știi? Probabil că până de seară îl dă la cineva.
Astana, a town that tourist guide says that you either love it or hate it. A small provincial town that woke up overnight to find itself in the panoply of big cities when in 1994 President Nazarbayev had the vision to relocate the capital here. 10% of the national budget was directed here to build neighborhoods to the south of River Ishim, and where now you will find all the administrative and governmental structures. The big city happily combines the Islamic, Soviet, Western and futuristic architecture. Astana was declared the official capital city in 1997, but it will take until 2030 until all the construction work is due to be completed. At that point it is estimated that the city's population will reach 1 million. Today you can only wonder at the complexity and the modernization that is taking place almost overnight in the middle of the desert. Silver decides to abandon himself in the arms of a beautiful Asiatic, but only to have a haircut.
Mai vrei?
Da,
Nu știu să nu vrei că
nu vreau să mă asculte.
Cum ți se pare?
Da. Stăm 2 ore după aia, uite-te la el. Hai, bune, da.
E ok?
Uite, tot pieptul zice, tot.
Tradiționalul șașlâc, hă? Te rog.
Da, este și.
Iar e muzică românească.
Da.
Black Sea Girls.
Da, asta e. Românii nu știu de Black Sea Girls.
A nocturnal walk through the center of Astana is certainly an unforgettable experience. Believe me, it is one of the most beautiful places on earth. Grandiose monuments, colored lights and glass water fountains. Yes, the president of this country has an amazing vision.
Oy sanamdı мәңгі жауламай Неге ғана маған кездестің сен Ғашық болдым қалай аңдамай Ауырмайды жүрек, ауырмайды Сенсіз өткен күндер болмаса Ауырмайды жүрек, ауырмайды Sen oylatkan dündür bolmasa Avurmaydı jürek avurmaydı Öldüregen gözün bolmasa Avurmaydı jürek avurmaydı Suyum degen sözün bolmasa Жалындаған сол бір жаздың әнін Күзмөсегі енді жалғасын
Ăștia nu se prind nici cum că tu n-ai carnet, mă, ai numai la internațional.
Da, ca proștii, mă.
Da, dar și când se prinde odată o șpagă de aia, de $1000 scurt.
Nu se prinde nimeni, că-s prea dobitoci.
Bă, dar în Kazakhstan ne-au oprit la poliție, vai de capul, mă.
Nu le mai dăm nimic, gata.
Gata, trebuie spune nix $.
Da.
Ba că e mașina murdară, ba că unde mergi? Da. Acasă.
The following day we go to the Iranian embassy where we are granted visas for Marcel, and then we set off again on the partially asphalted road in the north of the country towards the west and the Caspian Sea. In the town of Port Aktau we will sort out of visas for Azerbaijan and look for ferry crossings.
Unde o lei la grup?
Uite aici.
Ce poate rezolva?
Nu știu.
Bir жалғызды бұтағын Сүйдім сені сағынып Тек соралшы жан жарым Жасыл терек тағы да Bir жалғызды бұтағын Сүйдім сені сағынып Тек соралшы жан жарым
35 days and 15,000 kilometers. The landscape is desolate. Desert dust as far as you can see from Astana to Aktau is 2,600 kilometers of the most unpleasant journey of the expedition.
Poți să bei apă?
Tot am dat pe mine, bă. Hop, hop.
Nicăluțu! Ce fain!
The omnipresent dust, the catastrophic roads, the heat and the lack of any landscape all leaves a mark on the mental state of the members of the expedition, puncture after puncture and dust in every crevice. For the first time we are not in the mood for living. We cannot wait to get to the sea.
Жасыл терек тағы да Bir жалғызды бұтағын
Omul care conduce 22 de ore din 24 și doarme doar 2.
Și mai pot. Ce? Nu? Barieră. Ce? Barieră.
We lose count of the amount of flat tires that we had, and we try to find something interesting to see in the north of the country. Oh, how beautiful traveling through the south would have been. Thank you, Turkmenistan.
Arcel, Marea Caspică.
Unde?
Aici, după deal.
După deal?
Abia aștept să fac o baie. Oșule că puțin ca niște...
E prea sărată și...
prea plină de petrol.
Finally we arrive in Aktau. We could not believe that even out of season the hotel cost a small fortune. We have to stay here several days until we get the necessary visas and get the ferry, so we decide to ring the number given to us by a passerby so that we could find some accommodation.
Bun, $80, scoate. V gastinița? Есть номера? Я, извините, пожалуйста, я очень плохо говорю по-русски.
For $60 a night we get a super apartment. Come on now, this is too much luxury.
Wow, băieți, ce e asta?
Cameră video.
Se numește masă?
Asta se numește capota mașinii în bătaia vântului. Eu am un tricou cu
super. Ce mâncați aici?
Pe tine.
Șașlâc?
Nu. Pizza. Pasăre.
The next day, straight to the embassy.
Așa, cartierul 15. Trebuie să vedem steagul Azerbaidjanului. Asta e... cum e? Cu verde, roșu.
We were granted visas, but it will take a while. It will be 9 days in the end, and in that time we get to know the small town quite well, where we are legal and registered with the police. And now to the seaside.
După cum am promis, fac o baie în fiecare din mările pe care le întâlnesc, dar nu știu cum se face, că una este mai rece ca alta. Și încă ceva, mi-au spus cei de aici din Aktau că întotdeauna când faci prima baie din viață în Marea Caspică, trebuie să spui o dorință. Eu o să-mi pun o dorință.
It's no longer a surprise that the streets have no names and the addresses are found in micro-districts. We attend cultural events and get irritated most days at how expensive the food is in a country where the petrol is so cheap.
Дорогие друзья, мы приглашаем всех завтра на праздничный концерт в честь дня рождения города, который состоится здесь в 18:00.
Наш Казахстан.
There is an unexpected break while we get the visas and await the only ferry that goes from Aktau to Baku, Azerbaijan.
Fugim la Bac, fugim la Bac, fugim la Bac. Fugim la Bac, nu vine să cred. Uite aici, Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan Republicasă.
Happy we go through all the formalities as the ferry is due any minute. And here we are stuck in the port with custom clearance already done, technically having left the country, but the ferry is nowhere to be seen. We are told that they do not have a free dock for it to moor at. Hours and days go by.
Filmează pe Bacea că el e cu nemulțumirile, el vrea să facă niște plângeri.
Da. Mă țin ăștia aici de 24 de ore.
Și noi de fapt suntem de 22 pe vapor.
E super și aici, da, aș vrea să mai vin, să mai stăm în porturi pe aici. Și sunt rupt de obosit, nu mai pot de obosit, mă obosește moșii ăștia.
Finally, after 3 long days of non-violent sequestration in a small car park in the port, bribing the custom officers to let us use the toilet, and a quarrel with the port captain because we had the nerve to eat off the car bonnet, we embark on our little Titanic. It costs a lot of money to cross the largest lake in the world, the Caspian Sea, in a rusty shell, the petrol and caviar sea.
Ce crede?
Toalet, bani.
Hai noroc!
Hai noroc! Căldește un pic. Da, unde are cabina Leonardo DiCaprio?
Jos la subsol! Aici am...
Fii atent că sunt 6 paturi pe tine, mai aduce 2, mă. Auzi? Și ăsta e mai mare patul.
Nu, mă, ce face cât 4?
Aici mă culc eu.
Cum e? Cum e? Cum e înainte să lovim icebergul? Cum e?
Bine, căldește un pic. Da, asta e, ne aducem noi așternutul nostru. Da, bă, de aici, da, bine. Plutesc. Nu știu, plutesc.
În al 9-lea cer de când am fost în Mongolia.
Plutesc.
Îți dai seama.
Și aici are loc și tanti, știi?
Emirov, uite. BF Emirov.
Asta când te cresește mort, să știe de unde, pe ce vaporești.
După dinți cât e identifică, știi?
We are in an Azerbaijani pavilion. The passengers, mostly Turks, create a warm atmosphere in the dining hall.
Asta e inedit. Genul, să bea bere, să bea vodka, inedit, tot inedit. Bere cu vapor, cu vază, ne mișcăm, am pornit.
ajungem.
De 10 minute ne mișcăm. După 3 zile, de 10 minute ne mișcăm.
It's true, it's simply beautiful. Even Silver agrees.
Prezentăm baia după vasul de crozieră, o copie originală după lui Squardici. Adevărul că e mai instabilă, mirosul nu vi-l pot descrie, că e specific. Da. Cunoaștem de pe vremea lui Ceașcă. Extraordinar.
The beautiful Caspian Sea is full of oil rigs. The rich resources are shared between Russia, Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan and Iran. After 24 hours, we moor in Baku.
Ce s-a întâmplat?
Nu, eu mers calculat, dă încheierea.
Unde v-a dus?
La altă vamă.
La altă vamă?
Eu mers calculat.
Am crezut că v-a dus să vă ia șpagă sau ce?
Da, am plătit $20 de mașină.
Baku is a pleasant surprise, this Monte Carlo of the East. A shame that we see it in a rush. But even so, a few nocturnal landscapes remain immortalized in our memories. We become fans for life of the Azerbaijani capital. If the opportunity presents itself, it's worth a visit to those lands. From Baku, within a few hours, we are finally in Iran, this huge enigma that we were so looking forward to.
Orada Dağıstan,
Azerbaycan, Rusya.
Azerbaycan, Rusya.
Nu. Azerbaycan, Rusya.
Azerbaycan.
E așa, ai venit și tu. Bă, marea cum e acum? Uite-te unde soare la acum.
We crossed the border without delay, even no one spoke English. Iranians are very friendly people and very happy to help us.
Bună mâncare în Iran.
Super! Încă ceva ca lumea.
Ăsta e pui galben.
E galben de sal afară.
Da, galben de strânt.
From the beginning, Iran is seducing us. It is something else. The landscape, full of forests and tea plantations, many villages, lots of people and a shocking number of stores, is exotic. Very helpful people, and a lot of them speak impeccably good English.
Marceluș, siamo a Iran.
Frumos, ne place, așa-i? Da.
Da, cred că faci giratoriu.
Fac giratoare, da. Pe roșu cu intermitență.
Am văzut.
Adică n-am prioritate.
Gaz în persană, mă uit la litere. Stai că abia am învățat cifrele. Uite aici, 100 de bagnote de 50.000. Asta e 5 milioane și 7 milioane sunt $300, dar 7 milioane de riali Asta e 700.000 de tomani sau îs 700 de riali noi. Groaznic. Ai de cap, nu mai înțeleg. Și atunci litru de benzină vine 1 leu și 20 de bani. 30 de cenți de dolari. 1 leu și 20 de bani. Groaznic.
We are still close to the Caspian Sea amongst bizarre vegetation in comparison to the desert image of the rest of the country. The tourists at the seaside give the place a holiday atmosphere. Everything is modern, and even if the women are dressed in black with their heads covered, we try to give up the prejudice that we maybe had.
Hai că e ok, toată lumea vinde ceva.
Do I need a haircut? Maybe. A real Napoleonic barber cuts my hair while watching soaps on TV, but the result is surprisingly okay. We crossed the Alborz Mountains with its Damavand peak of 5,600 meters, being the highest volcano in Asia. Those mountains constitute a fascinating barrier between the Oriental Desert in the south and the luxuriant vegetations in the north. In only 20 minutes, we travel from one landscape to the other, and everything is different. It is unreal, like the traffic.
Nimeni nu respectă nimica. Aici este linie continuă. Se merge pe două benzi, dar nu mai știi ce.
Petrol is very cheap in Iran. For locals it costs 10 cents for a liter, and for tourists it is 4 times as much. The traffic is diabolical. You only see cars produced in this country, many produced under a license. For example, our Dacia Logan is called here Renault Tondar 90. On the huge motorways, much bigger than the ones in Europe, we get to the huge capital Tehran that has 15 million inhabitants. People drive fast and the traffic rules are made on the spot, but somehow it has a logic. It is much harder to be a pedestrian. Crossing the road is a real adventure.
Cum e genul să traversezi în Teheran?
Ai văzut adineauri. Trebuie să ai noroc să traversezi.
It is hard, and you need real courage to drive in the capital.
Marcel, le faci țara de râs. Cum adică vă unul face de...
Ai văzut cum a făcut ăla?
De cu două benzi mai din dreapta ta face stânga și tu nu ești în stare de aici.
We are heading to visit a television tower, the fourth tallest in the world. The modernization that we see here again changes our preconceived ideas about this country.
Northwest side of Tehran, you can see one of the main highway from north to south, another one from west to east. Chamran Highway and Hemmat Highway, and car pollution and a very hard traffic.
The night catches up with us in the park, in which it seems the whole town agreed to meet, a real feeling of celebration in the air. we decided that it would be easier to walk next day. We took a walk to Golestan Palace, the former residence of the Persian Shah. Golestan is an architectural fantasy by Shah Nasser al-Din, built in the second half of the 19th century as a queue of European imperial courts. The palace is of an unsurpassed beauty and it is the most important tourist destination in Tehran. We were surprised at how cheap it is to visit, although for all 7 buildings you have to buy a separate ticket. The final cost was $1.50 per person. The palace is surrounded by gardens with palm trees and the rooms are opulent, decorated with mosaics. We note the unusual way that mirrors were used, tiny pieces of mirror cleverly concealed in walls and ceilings, achieving a unique pattern which took the masters 6 years to complete. The museum exhibits are also of great interest: arms, medieval vessels, national customs from all over Iran. But the most impressive was the Shah's personal collection, the majority consisting of presents from European courts at the start of the 20th century. Lots of mirrors, but we liked Golestan. We squeezed through the crowds in the Grand Bazaar. Time is short, so after 2 mosques and 3 condiments, we say goodbye to Tehran. But to leave is not that easy. In a few hours we get to the mostly southerly point of our journey, the tourist capital of Iran, Isfahan. We are impatient, so on our first night we head to the amazing Imam Square. Grand dimensions, second largest in the world after Tiananmen Square in Beijing, and fascinating architecture, it is listed by UNESCO Heritage as the most beautiful Islamic architecture square of the world. It is worth visiting Iran just to see this square. Nakhchivan, the name means the world's square. It was built by Shah Abbas the Great starting in 1602. The square has seen hardly any changes in the last 400 years. The 2 mosques, the palace, the arched vaults all remain unchanged. You can almost still feel in the air the atmosphere at the polo games that took place here centuries ago. A young man that speaks English approaches us in the front of the mosque. There are hardly any tourists in Iran and everywhere we go we stir interest. Ehsan, our new acquaintance, accompanies us while we visit the Imam mosques and demonstrates to us the effect of the echo that is due to the double dome that is unique in the world.
While we're praying, sometimes we have to, we have to be like that, put the hands over here, and then put the head here. Because with your head you have to touch the nature. The best thing to touch the nature is the soil which comes from holy places.
That's Muhammad Ali?
No, this is Ali.
Ali?
Muhammad. They attacked the people of the city, the people all gathered in the mosque and they closed the door and they shut at the door.
Ehsan then takes us to his brother's carpet shop.
you see in the carpet has a meaning.
Tot ce vedeți are un motiv, un înțeles.
This is the tent of the people, the nomadic people live over here.
Este cortul oamenilor nomazi.
Pool of water connected to the tent by the canal system. These are the pool of water.
Bazinul de apă legat de cort.
Bazinul de apă, yes. These are the fountains that spread the water to the agriculture.
Prăște apa pentru agricultură.
Although we did not buy any carpets, we strike a friendship with Ehsan, and after we eat a lunch dominated by the classic kebab, he joins us while we visit the most interesting parts of the city. Something that is also very impressive is the mosque with moving minarets, which, at fixed times, has one of its minarets shaken until it seems like it will collapse, and the vibration causes the other minaret to move, and you can hear the sound of a bell.
S-a mișcat și ăla. E normal că s-a mișcat, dacă s-a mișcat târziu.
What happens next? Maybe a hookah? We are not quite smoked out, but give the city maximum points from a tourist's perspective. I'm asking Ehsan about Persepolis, the famous citadel palace set on fire by Alexander the Great in 334 BC and whose ruins today represent the most impressive archaeological site in the world, and he advises us to spend another day in Isfahan as there is more to see here than at the famous ruins. So in order to save driving 2 days and 1200 kilometers, we decided to give it a miss. But a swim in the Persian Gulf 300 kilometers south of Persepolis would have been good. We conclude our stay in Isfahan by visiting the Jameh Mosque while Ehsan tells us about his country. The restrictions that we have heard about are more relaxed than we have thought. The young girls, especially those in the north, cover their heads only as a symbol, and in private some live liberal lives. If you are caught with pork meat, there is no punishment, but with alcohol you would be liable for 80 lashes. The punishment for possession of drugs is unusually harsh. It can attract capital punishment. We find out that deviation from traffic rules cannot be resolved by bribing the police, and the chaos on roundabouts is regulated by first is the fastest. It is true that you are not allowed to own a motorbike with an engine size larger than 125 cc's, and the taxes for imported cars are exorbitant. The minimum wage is around $300 per month. I think that there are less poor people in Persia than in Romania. We leave Isfahan towards the west. We will travel towards Turkey parallel to the Iraqi border.
Am trecut de 20.000 de kilometri. Da? 25, cum o să continui până acasă. Da, rezistă mașinile. Le vindem aici și la suprapreț.
It takes us a while to find the road that heads west towards Koramabad, and we enter a broad valley in the Zagros mountain. The landscape is Selenic, with bare mountains which reach a height of 4,200 meters. The roads are surprisingly good, mostly dual carriageways, and the traffic is reasonable. We cross towns and picturesque villages in which the houses are built on risky metal structures filled with bricks. In the Lorestan region lives the people known as Lori, semi-nomadic descendants of 4,000-year-old population, quite different to the Persians or the Kurds. The people are yet again helpful and friendly even though it is rare that anyone speaks English. We stop at the side of the road to buy tomatoes from two women who ask us, more through gesticulation, where we are from and offer us their produce for free.
Am trecut pe linie continuă, m-au oprit, am dat înapoi. Când a venit la mine, au văzut că e număr de România, m-au salutat, au dat mâna, au spus că ședere bună în Iran.
Pe linie continuă, strânge mâna aici?
Da. Probabil că e prietenia asta cu România, simpatia față de români, nu pot să-mi dau seama că deja am pățit de 11 ori aceeași prietenie, aceeași...
We get to Bisotun, one of the world's most important archaeological sites. Here on some impressive rock walls are seen important bas-reliefs monuments. The most valuable monument dates to 521 BC. The image represents the Persian king Darius amongst his subjects. Its importance resides in the fact that on the bas-relief there are cuneiform inscriptions in 3 languages that have since disappeared: Elamite, Babylonian and Old Persian. This has enabled the deciphering of the cuneiform inscriptions. The locals laugh as they recite the legend of how in 1835 a British officer spent months suspended in a chair above a chest to accurately transcribe the inscriptions. We enter the indeterminate territory of Kurdistan. We can easily recognize the Kurds by the baggy trousers worn by the men. It is getting dark as we pass Lake Oromiyeh. We fill our cars with petrol before the Turkish border. In the neighboring country, attention, petrol costs 10 times more than in Iran. We did not know that we had to pay the difference at the border, calculated by the declared petrol tank dimensions. But a cunning Marcel manages to avoid declaring a 20-liter can that we have in the car. Saved 36 euros.
Rusya mı güzel, Türkiye mi güzel?
Rusia îi place și Turcia îi place.
We cross the border talking about the fact that we managed to cross all this country having the car properly searched. Jenu still had pork meat and plum brandy in the car.
Adevărat sau fals?
Adevărat. În sfârșit o salată. De când am plecat de acasă n-am văzut așa ceva.
Și Bulgaria, trebuie să mâncăm salată bulgărească.
What do you think of a swim in the Turkish lake van?
Trebuie să facem o baie și lui Marcel, că eu fac sigur. Hai, Baci, hai, tata, hai! Hai, da, mă! Așa! România, o inimă pentru fan! Revizia expediției, zilei de astăzi a expediției.
Surprisingly, the east of Turkey is very dry and also surprisingly the roads are very good. But I'm not surprised that the roads are very good considering how much the petrol costs. And here, after 54 days and 21,000 kilometers, we have our first and only car accident. Late at night, a careless driver brakes hard in front of Silver and next to a police car. Our mechanic is unable to avoid an impact, but our car is not seriously damaged. It was funny trying to understand the army of police who could only speak Turkish. What good is to speak 6 languages if you cannot speak Turkish?
Dacă vede asta, pică asta, se mișcă textul. Ce are dacă așa acum? Dar nu o să... Dacă îl trage 5 centi, ce?
We try to forget our misfortune and we are happy to arrive in Cappadocia, at the bizarre stone buildings, an enchanting place, 5 stars like the hotels in Antalya. Our tourist guide says about Goreme that the beauty of the place cannot be rendered in words, and I bow my head in agreement. Magnificent decor, the famous mushrooms of Cappadocia surround you. Volcanic rock formations similar to Babele in Romania. A picturesque village presents itself in the center, dwellings carved in the same giant mushrooms. Not only dwellings but hotels, souvenir shops, all carved in the bizarre rocks. We do not know which way to turn to take photographs, and we stop at the Al Fresco Museum, where in the interior of the mushrooms and the rock walls are hidden churches from the first centuries of Christianity. The icons are so old and valuable that the whole site has been included in the UNESCO heritage. The museum certainly deserves the €6 entry price. From Goreme going south towards one of the 60 subterranean sites, Kaymaklı, genuine Schweizer cheese. The rocks here hide subterranean labyrinths that are kilometers long. Those settlements, cleverly carved by humans, go back 4,000 years ago.
Of course, they didn't live all the time in underground, only in case of danger, otherwise they were living outside in their regular and cave houses.
It is hard to imagine how people carved into the mountain on 7 levels, so that they could have roads, living rooms, kitchen, bathrooms, storerooms. In those artificial caves, the besieged could survive her for 6 months. We get out into the fresh air. Silver transfers the cheap Iranian petrol from Genoskarin to Marchels. Genu uses gas. It's cheaper. We set off towards the capital, Ankara. A short walk in the old citadel helps us to form an impression. The city is not particularly impressive. Start off westwards, towards Istanbul.
Mara.
We return to Europe crossing one of the Bosphorus Bridge. When you come from Asia, it is free. The fee is only paid one way, the other way. Istanbul is a large, beautiful and unique city. We would like to jump out of the car stuck in a traffic jam so we could photograph the Beşiktaş neighborhood, Galata Tower and the mosques that we pass. But we remain focused on St. Sophia Mosque. Even the entry ticket is a small fortune, €12.50 per person. Once we get inside, it is like entering another world. The madness outside is left far behind and we travel back in time. In times when the Byzantine and Muslim cultural mosaics made you fly hundreds of years back through the mists of history. Overwhelmed and even fastidious Genu is deeply impressed. The first church was built here by Constantine the Great in 325 AD and was burnt in a fire 404 AD. The cathedral is an impressive building only a few centimeters smaller than the dome of the Pantheon of Paris, whose dome was only exceeded in height by the dome of St. Peter's Basilica in Rome, built in the 16th century. The last Christian ceremony took place on 29th August 1453. At present, the officials are undertaking steps to return St. Sophia to the Orthodox Church. Sultan Mohammed, the conqueror of Constantinople, ordered that the Holy Sophia should be transformed into a mosque. The legend says that on one of its white walls was the mark of the Sultan's bloody hands. We came out of the St. Sophia feeling dizzy and are sorry that it's too late to visit a blue mosque or to spend, only for pleasure of haggling, a few liras in the Grand Bazaar. We leave too early the only city in the world that stretches between two continents, and we are feeling that the end of our expedition lies just in front of us.
E noapte deja când am trecut în Bulgaria.
12-29.
Nu scrie nimic.
Ce să scrie?
Bulgaria, bine au scris.
We cross Bulgaria at night and we decide not to visit anything farther. We have a white night and Marcel drives for nearly 30 hours without a break. We have been traveling for 57 days and the tiredness has left its mark on everyone.
Și părăsiți la a doua ieșire pe următoarea stradă, virați la dreapta.
All are in a hurry to return to their normal daily lives. After 23,900 kilometers, we return to Arad.
Самый лучший день заходил вчера, ночью ехать лень, пробыл до утра, но пришла пора и собрался в путь. Ну и ладно, ну.
As for our heart, have we managed to draw it or not?